The Derek Hunter Show continues.
Yeah, it does, but only for one more hour. One more hour, then you can start your weekend. You can start drinking now for all I care. Go ahead. Hasn't stopped me that it's morning. Still 0-0 Croatia versus Brazil, in case you care about that. Brazil's there's a handball. That might be a goal kick. Not going to be good. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, on Friday is the only days we have guests, usually just David Fredosa, but on occasion we open it up and have a second guest as well when I'm particularly lazy or distracted by World Cup soccer. And as such, we pick brains that we can pick and find some good nuggets in there. Matt Lamb is one of them. He's an associate editor over at the College Fix, which monitors these left-wing campuses that you go to, you send your kids to, we all subsidize through our tax dollars, and mostly you just get mad hearing this stuff, but you need to hear it because it's important. So welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. So you guys are out there, you're doing the work of combing through all of these records that of donations, of party registration and what have you, and you find nothing is surprising, but it's important to remind everybody of what is actually found, because the problem not only exists and has existed for a very long time of bias in academia, but it seems to be getting worse. So you guys found 0 Republicans in 33 departments at 7 universities in your analysis. That's an amazing 33 whole departments. No Republicans at all. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. So, this is definitely happening, but what this sort of research does is it establishes that it's not just anecdotes about a few lefty professors that go on rants about Trump or Republicans. What we do is we look at political party registration, which in some states you can look up, or the voting history in party primaries, which is what we did in Georgia. And so, as you mentioned, in our analysis, there were 0 Republican professors found across 33 departments at 7 universities. And notably, with the exception of Cornell, the universities are in, very strong red states. We've got Ohio State University, University of Nebraska, Omaha, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, University of Georgia, I guess it's more of a purple state now, University of Oklahoma, and University of Alaska, Anchorage. So, we didn't just pick on the New York City universities. We looked at universities in red states, and this is what we found.
What's amazing, though, Matt, is that you found 667 professors who were Democrats. So saying that you found 0 Republicans is one thing, but to give it to perspective, you have to say, but the other side of the scale had 667 people.
Exactly. And so, we can't find registrations for everyone, but when we looked at the 7 universities, and that included 65 departments, there was 61 Republicans in total, and then, as you mentioned, 667 Democrats. And a lot of these departments are ones where there should be a lot of intellectual diversity baked into the program. I mean, philosophy, you should have some Adam Smith people, Ayn Rand, what have you. Economics, you would expect some, at least some, free market people, capitalist people. So you would expect those would have Republicans. Maybe women and gender studies, we can understand why there wouldn't be Republicans. But you would expect in the philosophy of political science and economics, there would be some more diversity in opinions and party registration.
I have to ask you, we're talking with Matt Lamb, associate editor at the College Fix, which does great work. If you're not following them on social media or going to thecollegefix.com, you're doing something wrong in life. I have to ask you, Matt, to put on your wild speculation hat. Why do you think that is? Like in the gender studies departments, it's going to be tough to sneak one past the goalie, sneak a conservative in there. But in the philosophy departments, you don't even have to be an activist. You just kind of go, you know what, I fall more towards the libertarian sort of side of things. And to find none, why do you think it is that conservatives simply, I don't know, are they trying to get into academia and being denied, or are they just not interested in academia?
Sure. It's definitely a chicken and egg question. What I've heard from talking to, I'm not even 30 yet, but what I've heard from talking to conservative scholars, who taught in the 60s and 70s and 80s and historians on this issue is that, really in the 60s and 70s, the leftists began to take over these departments, and then you start to see this snowball effect of they're only hiring liberals. And now the new phase of this, taking over is mandatory diversity statements or anti-racism statements, or at some universities, for example, like at Indiana University, if you want tenure, part of your review is going to include your work on, anti-racism or DEI. So that those sort of requirements are further going to push conservatives away. The sort of silver lining in this is that means that conservative think tanks, the Heritage Foundation, AEI, there's thousands of them, have been able to get a lot of very talented people who are being shut out of academia, and they go and they work at these center-right or these libertarian think tanks.
Yeah, no, I started off my career in 2001 at the Heritage Foundation. And it's great, and they have certainly some of the people I worked with were some of the brightest minds I'd ever met. But once you get into the think tank world, Matt, you're dealing with maybe, hopefully, having a shot at deprogramming people, whereas in academia, they're indoctrinating people constantly, and you can prevent that from happening. That's the difference between, it's great to have scholars in the think tank world. It's better to have scholars in the academic world. And we're looking at a situation where it's even worse, because you guys did another analysis. You're digging through all of these things about faculty donations. Just to put a finer point on it, it's not just 7 universities insofar as having people who dare vote Republican working there. Only 4% of faculty donations across 44 universities in 11 states went to Republicans. Tell us about that one.
Right. So we did a series of articles, and this is sort of our meta-analysis for the 2022 midterms, that 96% of faculty donations went to Democrats or Democrat causes, like a Planned Parenthood, PAC, or gun control organization that primarily supports Democrats. And so, this used Federal Election Commission data. So this is donations to federal, U.S. Senate or Congress or related organizations. And this looked at Ivy League universities, but also, again, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Ohio, Michigan. These are, red states or at least, purple states. Mm. And we found that $4.57 million went to Democrats, while only about 190,000 went to Republicans. And so there's, kind of two different ways to look at it, and neither really look good. One, it's that most of the faculty are liberal and they're Democrats, and they give to Democrats, and that shows a bias. Or maybe there are Republicans and they're worried about what happens if their donation gets out there. Of course, I mean, we can go back to, the Mozilla CEO, what was that, about 10 years ago, and he gave $500 to support biblical, marriage, and he was, ostracized. That was probably one of the first big cases of cancel culture, which has only gotten worse since then, of people being targeted for their political beliefs.
There is that. There definitely is that. Maybe they're making, I think it's $100 or $200 where the donations have to be bigger than that then a name has to be attached to it. But why do you think it is, Matt, that because the general public doesn't really donate a whole lot to college or to political campaigns? Why do you think it's so prevalent? Because, $4.5 million is nothing to sniff at, and you're dealing with only 44 universities. Yeah, there's a lot of people in those universities, but why is it that the left in academia, do you think, is so inclined to give their money to activist politicians?
I think the left, more than conservatives, they don't compartmentalize things. Like, we'll see, okay, there's our job, and then there's our politics, and then maybe separately there's our religious beliefs. But for the left, it's all just one thing. So their job as professors and their job and their interest in politics and being activists, they're all the same. They're all the same thing. I think it's safe to say their religion is more determined by their politics than their politics is determined by their religion. And so I think academia, as we discussed earlier, is drawing in more activist types. So that's why you'll see more and more. We cover this, plenty of an academic paper, quote unquote, about, anti-racism in medicine. And so it's now taking their activism and then putting sort of a scholarly veneer on it, because they don't separate the different interests in their life like I think conservatives unfortunately do.
The College Fix, and we're talking with Matt Lamb, associate editor at College Fix. The College Fix it's reporting across the country largely from college students, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. Our main mission is to really help train students for potential careers in journalism or the media.